What happens when you take one of the best horror movies of the year and you put it with a prequel that is kind of unnecessary, still interesting, but largely useless? Well, you get Pearl, and we're going to be talking about that right now. Hi, and welcome back to Podio Commentary. I'm Matt Jarbo, and today we're going to be talking about West and Mia Goth's Pearl, the second feature film from this director to come out in 2022. And I have to say that after I watched X, I was dying to jump into Pearl. I almost watched it that night, like immediately following it, but it was super late and I was like, I gotta get to bed, but I'm gonna watch it tomorrow night. And that's exactly what I did. I was up to like 2 o'clock in the morning watching Pearl, and I have to say, yeah, I could have waited. I could have waited. I could have, maybe come back to it in a few months, or waited until Maxine was getting ready to come out. That's the third film in this like extraordinary series from Ti West, obviously following up with Mia Goth's character from the first movie and what happened to her after the events. This one takes place in 1918 during World War I and dealing with what I believe to be a 16, 17, maybe 18-year-old Pearl, as she has had to go back to the family farm to look after her infirm father and her very overbearing German mother, while her husband Howard, the same Howard we met in the first movie, is overseas fighting the good fight. And she's just not happy. Now, listen, I can understand what it's like to be an unhappy teenager with oppressive parents. I totally get that. I sympathize with that. But the thing is that the movie, in my mind, like really failed to set up something that was as compelling as X was. I mean, like, there's very similar themes, especially in regards to pornography and to the proliferation and popularity of pornography, given the different like times that we find ourselves in with these movies. But like, at the same time, that's kind of one of, and maybe finding yourself in the world, finding where your place is, finding out where you're meant to be. I mean, obviously the wrath of Pearl that we saw in X, we get to see that on full display here when she's younger, but it like was okay. It was a little undercooked, in my opinion. It was a little undercooked because, the movie follows a very similar like format to X. It very much does. Like, you could get to the point about halfway through. When I paused it, I looked at how far we are into the movie, and I'm like, here is where the violence is going to start happening. And it definitely has a smaller body count than X, which makes sense given the setting and given where it's at and everything else. But I felt like it didn't have the oomph that X did. It didn't have like the gravitas that X did. It didn't have that X factor that they talk about quite a bit, which is obviously the reason why Pearl wanted to attack the people in X, even though there's that whole weird subplot that we never really get any kind of explanation on in regards to X, where Howard can't get it up, and so they kidnapped some guy and they turned him into a sex slave, and then like he's dead and they hung him up in the basement. Like, that whole thing is interesting. Nary an explanation as to why that happened, because I'm pretty sure Howard in the between 1918 when he gets home from the war and 1979 when he finally dies of a heart attack, there's they've knocked uglies, they've bumped pelvises, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, they've done the deed. But it just, I don't know, certain things like that, I was trying to find the connectivity of it, but I don't think that connectivity is there in a way that's like really like story based as much as it is just like metaphorical, or insinuating that life is cyclical in many different ways. Many people do operate kind of very much on the same kind of track, provided what they're going for in life. I mean, so in this particular story, Pearl is like really just being beaten down by her overbearing mother, and her mother, like, you're meant to sympathize with Pearl throughout the film because her mother is very German. At one point she's like, there was 8 cents missing, you get no supper. That's Scottish, not German. And it's just like, you find out that she's married, and it's like, wait, how old is this girl? Like, mentally, she's like 14, it seems like, but she's clearly being portrayed by an older actress, so we don't know exactly how old she is. We don't know anything. Like, Is she 18 in 1918, which would put her at 79 in X? Is she younger than that? We literally get no frame of reference. And we know that people back in the day, they married, they married earlier and everything else. But again, there's no frame of reference for her age or anything. And I think part of me was like, okay, like, I don't know. Is she a teenager? And she's like lusting after this projectionist guy? And then he's showing her pornography. Like, is that a big no-no? Like, what is the age here? Like, he's clearly of age. She seems to be of age. And I know I'm harping on it quite a bit, but it's one of those things where I feel like that was a significant element of the story for solidifying not only like how we view her in regards to being a sexual being, because if she's under the age of 18 and she's doing that, where she's orgasming after dry humping the scarecrow and having sex with the projection booth guy, are we meant to look at that where it's like, like sympathetic? She's just a budding young woman, or is she meant to be someone who is underage and that's just creepy for us to be like a voyeur of? I don't know. It was unnerving. It was a little unnerving for me. I just would have liked a clarification to kind of know, like, and maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's the whole point of it all. But anyway, she meets this projectionist guy. He kind of like, invites her to come back up and like check out the booth, which is obviously a ploy. I was a projectionist for years. You know what? I know what goes down in the projection booth. Whatever happens there stays there. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, right? There's a certain allure. There's a certain allure of the projection booth, but I get it. But the projection booth in this particular case offered escape. That's what that was. The movies that she watches, the silent pictures that she watches where the dancing ladies are there, that's her escape. She wants to be a dancer. She wants to leave the farm, leave her parents, leave her father, who is infirm from like the Spanish flu. I mean, obviously X was heavily inspired, or I should say Pearl was heavily inspired by the pandemic. And so, you have so there's the juxtaposition for current times, which I thought was interesting, especially because everyone's wearing a mask, and it wasn't political, just saying. But I thought that was like, compelling. Okay, cool. And then she's like wanting to go and do this dance contest to go on the road with this church troupe. And obviously like they're building towards that. And then like her mother is trying to hold her back, using like selfishness and guilt tripping. And I mean, like real, like Catholic mom guilt sort of stuff there. But very German Catholic mom, maybe Roman Catholic. I'm not too sure, but like very much holds that in there. And then like, again, you have the dad, and the dad is just like, he's just there to witness all of this. And like Pearl, like bathes herself in front of him. That was creepy. The guy's just stuck there. He is just stuck in this chair. He can't move. He's on morphine all the time. He's just out of it. But I'll tell you this though, man, that dude put on a hell of a performance for just not moving and using nothing but like his eyes to express his fear and his frustration and ultimately the terror. And I thought that was really, really good. Like that dude put on a hell of a performance. That guy, every time they did a close-up of his face, you could tell exactly what he was thinking. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the audience is also very much meant to be thinking the same thing. So I thought that was really good. The mother was like, again, like evil stepmother type thing where you're like, you're meant to hate her, but by the end, you kind of like sympathize with her because she knows who and what Pearl is, right? But in the way, the context that it's described, you would think that like this is Pearl and she's out there, like diddling herself in the barn or whatever, exploring herself. Like that's the thing. Like I've seen you at night when you think no one is watching, and you're like, every teenager in the world's all like, yeah, I think I've been there. You know what I mean? But then really what it boils down to is the fact that she's been killing creatures. Cause in the beginning of the movie, like it's shot like an old, early Hollywood movie, a lot of high key lighting. It's the way that like the barn is lit. The house is painted. The yard is green. It's not dead like it was in X. The barn is red. The yard is green. The other barn is painted. It completely looks different, even though it's the exact same set. And I did enjoy that immensely, by the way. But it's like, it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be treated like it's one of those movies. And I thought Ti West did a good job in the direction as well as the editing to kind of convey that. But then we see that Pearl is like, she kills a goose and she feeds it to the crocodile. So she fully knows that the crocodile is there. We also know that the crocodile is there. So we're like, okay, someone is going to get fed to that crocodile as they have been before. And, you know, as we get towards like the movie and we start kind of getting introduced to other characters that, you know, are probably going to become cannon fodder. The only real two outside of the mom and the dad are the projection booth guy and Mitzi, her sister-in-law, who likes Pearl quite a bit and is supportive of Pearl and just wants to be her friend. And they go to this audition together, and the sister-in-law is nervous and she's freaking out, and she knows that Pearl is like very determined, and she's like, can you like switch me places? Now, part of me was wondering before that scene, like, okay, she's switching her places because she knows she's going to win and everything else, as she knows, like, but then I'm like, okay, is Pearl going to think that she won? And that's going to be that chick's downfall. And they did a really good job of not letting you know because of how Pearl reacted to being rejected. I mean, Mia Goth did a great performance on that front, where the whole rejection scene was just like, damn, you know, like, and what's in her mind and everything else was damn. Especially the fact that, because I kind of overlooked this, when she kills her mother, it was an accidental kill. She wanted her mom dead. She wanted her mother dead, but her mother got burned up in the old clothing and then had the 3rd-degree burns and was just dying from the wounds. So she just left her mother to die in the basement and then went and cleaned up her dad, you know, and the whole time he knows what's going on. Like he is fully aware of what's going on. And then she like puts him in his Sunday best, puts him in his nice clothes. And she's like, you are loved. You will be missed. And then she suffocates him with the pillowcase, which I thought was like really like, wow, you know, and they don't show it, which I like. They zoom in on the canary cage, which I thought was really interesting. Almost a signal, like that, the signal that he was the canary in the coal mine. But this wasn't also her first kill. Her first kill was the projection booth guy who caught her in a lie and was like, ooh, something's weird here. I'm going to bail out. And then she just, you know, hell hath no fear, like a woman scorned, runs up and just starts stabbing him with a freaking pitchfork. And then stabs him in the head with the pitchfork. Very similar to how she killed Wayne in X by stabbing him in the eyes with the pitchfork. Here she went through the mouth. I thought that was interesting. And then dumped him and the car into the lake. And we don't see the crocodile eat him, but we do see, you know, it's implied. But really, Mitzi, man, I felt bad for her. That character right there, that scene, I'll tell you this stuff. There's awards going out for the holidays. Like, as much as I feel like this movie was largely unnecessary, Mia Goth going off for like 5 minutes, that monologue, they don't cut. She doesn't stutter. She doesn't stop. She just goes off with this life story of the bad things that she's done, her feelings, why she acts the way that she does. I mean, she's crying, conveying all these emotions. You don't like hear anything out of Mitzi, who is there in the room with her. And I'm watching this scene, and in my brain, I'm going like, run, bitch, run. Get the fuck out of here. You need to go right now, because she's confessing to murders. And I'm like, you are not going to survive this. And I think anyone watching it would have been like, oh yeah, this chick is severely going to die. But then they kind of make you think, oh, she might get away. Now in my mind, I'm like, no, she's not going to get away. But they really play with you to make you think that. And I really enjoyed that exchange where she's like, well, I should go. Have yourself a nice day. See you later. Okay, thanks, bye. You know, and then of course, Pearl is going to let her go. Like, you're not going to tell anyone, are you? Oh, no, goodness, no. Why would I ever tell anybody? But then it's like that, well, I know you won. I know you got chosen. And it has nothing to do with her narking anybody out. It has everything to do with her jealousy and rage about not being picked. But Mitzi didn't get picked. That was the thing. That was the trick. That was I think really good. It's like, she's like, well, Pearl, I didn't get it. You don't have to lie to me. Well, no, Pearl, I'm not. No, don't you lie to me. I mean, I know it's not me, but I'm glad it's you. Don't you lie to me. You know, yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's going to be, I better, it's going to be crazy. Traveling with the churches and like, you know, but then just like, she goes to exit the house and like, She walks out, she opens the door, she shuts it, she pauses, and I'm like, you can tell she is like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, how the am I going to get the hell out of here? Like, does she have a car? We don't know if she has a car. That's the whole thing. We don't know if she has a car. But she just starts walking down the road. And then out walks Pearl, and she sees her, and just Pearl, like, just walks over and just grabs the axe. And then Mitzi just books it, and Pearl doesn't even run. She just, like, fast walks after her ass. Like, that was actually really good. Like, I was like, oh man, I felt legitimately bad for Mitzi's character. I did. I was like, honey, you should have just gone. You should have just gotten out of here. Man, that sucks. And then of course she gets like completely dismembered and like hucked into the lake, fed to the crocodile, who crunches down on her skull like it's a pumpkin. It's craziness, right? And then Pearl does like the thing that I feel like makes the most amount of sense for where things are going to go next. She drags her mother's corpse up, positions her in the chair at the dining room table, makes dinner, right? Says her prayers, and then leaves them there for what appears to be a couple days. Because then Howard gets home and he sees the corpses at the table and the rotted food and the moldy food and everything. And then she walks out and she's like, hi, Howard, you know? And then she just starts like to kind of like do this thing. And then like they just hold on her for the next couple minutes while the end credits start to run. And she's just like tearing up and she's crying. And you just see this like breakdown happening. Now, that was a good ending. But I think for me, what really kind of sold it was going back to that monologue when she's talking about how she's like, she's like, I put on a show for Howard. I'll be the wife he wants me to be. I'll be who he wants me to be. I just want him to love me. I want him to be, I want him to know that he's enough, that I do love him, that I do want what he has to offer. But at the same time, she has to act like she's broken. She has to put on the performance that she's broken. And that, of course, very much ties into how Howard acted in X and how he helped her kill these people, torment these people, torture these people in order for her to get what she wants, because she was playing him for literally 60 years or 50 years. She was playing him throughout their marriage. The whole time she was a murderous psychopath who had her husband wrapped around her finger. And that's the story of Pearl. And again, like, I find it to be an interesting story. But as I said in the cold open, it is largely unnecessary. I don't really feel it did a lot to like make X any better. I think X was just so good. Here, it just kind of felt like they were like, okay, you know, because the story really quick is like both this and X had a budget of $1 million. Ti West pitched both movies to A24. He was surprised that they actually agreed to do Pearl. But then again, if you're reusing the same set and you're using the same lead actor and you can, you know, shoot this in New Zealand while the crew is on break from filming Avatar: The Way of Water and Avatar 3, these guys have already gone through COVID precautions. They already are able to work. So they just took advantage of the situation and they shot this really low budget double set of movies. They're good. I will gladly watch X again. I don't think I'll watch Pearl again. And that's basically where I'm at with it. But look, this is a long review, a lot of thoughts on this movie. What do you guys think about it? Let me know down in the comment section. If there's any movies you want me to check out and review, let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great one and peace out.